criminal convictions and prison sentences in excess of 3 centuries against members of the violent gang North Pack. Prosecutors secured convictions against every defendant in the gang MG, in addition to major prosecutions against the Wilmington area gang Shoot to Kill, Touch Money Gang, and Only My Brothers, among others. Now, recently, Attorney General Kathy Jennings announced that the Department of Justice has secured the indictment of 10 individuals on more than 130 criminal charges stemming from their involvement in the Wilmington area gang Exit 4, also known as the Mag and Mag Boys. Exit 4 is the latest gang indictment that law enforcement have secured in recent years between January 2020 and December 2024. Members of Exit 4 are alleged to have committed crimes, including the murder of at least 3 victims, Khalil Amirabey, Letitia Hill, and Quemmer Wise. July of 2020 in Delaware was the most violent month in recent memory. No other month had seen that many gunshot victims. 29 people had been shot, 9 fatally. Khalil Amirabey was working on changing his life, mentoring youth, and even had plans of heading to North Carolina. But the 24-year-old's aspirations were stolen from him when he was fatally shot in Wilmington's East Side neighborhood. Amirabey was shot shortly before 2 a.m. on July 29, 2020, while in the 900 block of North Lombard Street. He was taken to a hospital in critical condition. He died later that night. He was described as having an amazing infectious smile and a love for football. He had graduated from the Hope Commission's re-entry program the year prior. In a testimonial posted on the Hope Commission's website, Amirabey said he learned a lot from the program. I learned how to be patient and to never quit even when you're at your breaking point, and also how to keep a job and maintain a job. To do what's best for me and not others. And I looked at other people's mistakes so that I can do better for me and my loved ones. I also learned if you really want to do better, you will by being in this program. About 3 hours before he was shot, 4 other people were wounded by gunfire. 2 of those victims, 17-year-old Nazir Seth and 23-year-old Alexis Cumberbitch, died. In mid-April of 2021, police were searching for the person or persons responsible for shooting 3 women, killing one of them. It happened at 10th and Pine Streets in Wilmington. A mile and a half away, 2 officers were hurt in a crash heading to that shooting. I think this was a situation where she was at the wrong spot at the wrong time. I have no idea, said the victim's sister. Letitia Hill, affectionately known as TT, was known for her kindness, but most importantly, she was loved. Around 2 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, the 37-year-old was gunned down with 2 other women on the 1000 block of North Pine Street. Her sister says TT was on her way to work when the gunfire broke out. A 26-year-old woman and a 23-year-old woman were also shot. They were rushed to the hospital, where they remained in stable condition until release. Sadly, TT didn't make it. This is ridiculous. People just dying left and right for no daggone reason, innocent bystanders, and I'm deeply hurt, the sister said. Justice will be served, she said. And now, with the indictment, the family may finally get some closure. The next situation took place recently, on September 4th of 2024. Court documents show that police were called to the 700 block of East 22nd Street at 10:28 p.m. There, they found 19-year-old Quemmer Wise, lying on his back on a hill with gunshot wounds to his hip and face. Wise was taken to the hospital in critical condition, where he died 3 days later. Police found 2 9mm shell casings on the sidewalk nearby. This information comes from court records and pulled surveillance footage from Eddie's Market. The surveillance video showed Wise entering the store, buying 2 bottled drinks and leaving the store. 1 minute after Wise left the store, the drinks in one hand and his cell phone in the other, 2 other men entered. They left Eddie's Market about 37 seconds later, court documents state, and walked toward Wise. The man, later identified as Amir Henry, then pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots at Wise at point-blank range before fleeing the scene. Court records and police did not say why Henry shot Wise. Detectives later identified Henry as a suspect, and he was taken into custody by Wilmington and Newcastle County Police. Amir Henry is not the only person charged with murder, though. In regard to the ones that were charged with murder, we are unsure which one they participated in at the moment. However, we did a little background on those that were charged with murder. First up, we have Philip Harris. One situation with him happened on January 10, 2020. A Newark police officer on patrol noticed a group of 5 males that appeared to be smoking marijuana outside of the Red Roof Inn, located at 1119 South College Avenue. According to the lieutenant, the officer ordered the males to stop, and they fled. Some of the males fled into the building, while one fled on foot across Old Cooches Bridge Road. The officer pursued this male, whom he caught, and took him into custody without further incident. The man, later identified as Philip Harris, was found to have discarded a handgun as he fled on foot. The handgun, which was loaded, was recovered next to a residence. On October 9, 2020, Captain Brad Evans of the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office reported that Deputy A.T. Peter, while conducting radar on Interstate 85 near the 31-mile marker, clocked a vehicle traveling 94 miles per hour in a 70 miles per hour zone. The driver failed to stop, accelerating to 116 miles per hour before pulling over on the shoulder. While checking the registration and license, the driver, Charles Myers, fled, exiting at the Warfield exit and running a stop sign at Sturgeon Road. Peter alerted dispatch and requested K-9 assistance. Deputies Connell and Clayton, along with a K-9, tracked the suspects and discovered a Glock 9mm magazine, a Blue P80 handgun, and a loaded silver Taurus .45 pistol. The weapons were secured and photographed. A vehicle search revealed a stolen Glock 35 with an extended magazine under the front passenger seat. 2 cell phones were found, along with a pair of jeans containing a debit card and a Delaware driver's license belonging to Philip Harris Randolph, identified as the driver. They would be arrested about 2 weeks later. May 25, 2023. Police discovered a 34-year-old male with gunshot wounds. The incident took place around 3:55 p.m. in the 200 block of North Franklin Street. The victim was promptly transported to the hospital and was in critical condition. Law enforcement identified 24-year-old Nair Small as a suspect. After presenting the case to the New Castle County Grand Jury on November 6, 2023, an indictment for Small was returned. The following day, Small was arrested without incident by members of the Criminal Investigations Division and Crime Gun Intelligence Center. Further investigations by detectives led to the identification of old Philip Harris as the second suspect. An indictment for Harris was returned after the case was presented to the New Castle County Grand Jury on December 18, 2023. Harris Randolph was subsequently arrested in New Jersey on December 21st and extradited to Delaware on January 2nd. Small faces several charges, including 6 counts of first-degree attempted murder, 6 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, possession of a firearm by a person prohibited, first and second-degree conspiracy, and receiving stolen property over $1,500. Nair Small is also listed as one of the members that committed murder. However, the charge shouldn't be connected to this shooting, because the 34-year-old man that was shot didn't die. At least we don't think so, because the murder would have been listed on the indictment. Don Richardson is another member of the crew who was charged in one of the murders. He had already been indicted back in 2017 with other members of Exit 4. In that case, he was hit with charges of gang participation and 2 counts of drug dealing. However, in June of 2022, Delaware State Police arrested Don Richardson, 23, of Wilmington, for 2 carjackings. They occurred in early January of 2022 in the North Wilmington area. The first incident occurred at approximately 9:03 p.m. Wednesday, January 5, 2022, in the parking lot of Wawa, located at 1702 Rocky Run Parkway, Wilmington. The investigation determined a black male suspect approached a 42-year-old male victim as he exited his vehicle in the parking lot. The suspect demanded the victim out of the vehicle and displayed a handgun tucked in his waistband. The victim pushed the suspect away but was physically assaulted by the suspect. The victim then ran towards the rear of the business. His vehicle was unable to be operated because the victim still had the key fob in his possession. The suspect then fled the scene in a gold sedan. A short time later, at approximately 9:04 p.m., the same suspect who exited a gold sedan approached a second victim in the parking lot of the Green Turtle, located at 307 Rocky Run Parkway, Wilmington. The suspect approached a 26-year-old victim, pointed a handgun at him, and demanded the victim's car keys, said Hatchell. The victim complied and the suspect fled the scene in the stolen 2000 Chevrolet Malibu. Through investigative means, troopers identified the suspect as Don Richardson and obtained warrants for his arrest. On June 9, 2022, troopers executed a search warrant at Richardson's residence and took him into custody without incident. A subsequent search of his residence led to the discovery of a Glock 9mm handgun. Two others, Neamja Rollins and Nasser Watkins, have also been indicted on murder charges. However, their history, if any, is unknown to us at this time. But in addition to the murders, there were also several attempt murders. For example, one individual, Javer Tabern, is charged with 12 counts of attempted murder first degree. One situation, on April 4th of this year, 2024, there was a shooting in the area of 5th and Madison Streets. In the wake of that shooting, Tabern showed up at the hospital with a gunshot wound. Detectives determined he was involved and arrested him. He was being held on $197,000 cash-only bail. However, probably due to this indictment, he is now being held on a $1,055,000 bail. When we revisit this story, we will get into the nature of some of those other shootings. Moving along, we have Maurice Harrigan. He was charged with 3 attempt murders, as well as other crimes. He had been in a few situations, but we will talk about these for right now. In May of 2021, 17-year-old Maurice Harrigan, his brother Anthony Harrigan, also 17, along with Stanley Jones, 18, were charged as adults with offenses ranging from assault to gun and traffic violations, following a police chase. Delaware authorities informed Maryland State Police late Sunday that a Jeep Patriot, believed to be stolen and connected to several shootings, was heading toward the state line, according to officials. Crazy thing is though, they took the police on a 30-mile chase. Now if you've ever driven 30 miles, that's pretty long, let alone being chased by police. Anyway, when Maryland officers intercepted the Jeep, it struck 2 patrol cars and continued driving down an interstate, eventually veering off a roadway and into a tree line, before the suspects ran into the woods, the statement said. The teens were later found in different areas and arrested, state police said. Officers said they recovered 2 guns that were tossed during the chase. Anthony, who police said was the driver of the Jeep, was charged with 4 counts of first-degree assault, multiple firearm violations, motor vehicle theft and traffic-related charges. Maurice and Jones were accused of being passengers in the Jeep and were charged with multiple firearm violations, motor vehicle theft and traffic-related charges. But this about wraps this one up for now. These guys are arrested, and soon we will learn the details as to which crimes they committed in more depth. We could get into the whole Tubby situation, a man who was killed in 2021, and who we believe is Maurice Harrigan's father. His neighbor's death swept the web overnight, one fan posted to Twitter. I ain't even know you, but I know you change people's lives by making them smile, and I'm sorry this happened to you. Including the killings of at least 6 people. Stephen Price, Taryn Wally, Tuckwood Davis, Sharif Hamilton, Dacus Reed and Ollier Henry. Half of the suspects are indicted on murder charges. Up to that point, there had been 68 people shot, 13 of them fatally. This was the most number of people shot this early in the year since 2017, the record year for shootings and homicides in Wilmington during the time. 2021 would end with a total of 39 murders. The teens and young men, whose ages ranged from 15 to 23 at the time of the acts, were indicted on May 10th of 2021. The indictment had been sealed, which kept it from the public eye. All 14 arrested, which includes 4 juveniles, have been incarcerated. In this story, we are only talking about murders and who is alleged to have committed them. The state alleged that the defendants were members of a criminal street gang known as North Pack. The re-indictment alleges 24 separate predicate acts establishing a pattern of criminal activity between November 12, 2018 and February 9, 2021. Of those 24 separate predicate acts, Elijah Caulfield is alleged to have committed 3 with fellow gang member Gregory Wing, as well as 3 on his own. The 2 are charged with murders. It was said that North Pack has been in an ongoing violent feud with another gang, the M Block Grimy Savages, MGs, and its affiliates, resulting in numerous shootings and murders. Other members, such as Julius Smith Jr., 15, and Jakari Robinson, 17, are charged with first-degree murder. Marcus Clark, 19, Zimmer Heinzen, 17, and Davin Boyce, 22, are also charged with first-degree murder. In addition, another member, Israel Lecomte, was charged with murdering 2 people, 38 felonies in total. Boyce was no stranger to crime. Delaware State Police arrested 2 subjects involved in the armed robbery of a Wilmington man. The incident took place on Tuesday, October 17, 2017, at approximately 1:58 p.m. in the Midway Plaza shopping center, located in the 4600 block of Kirkwood Highway. This is what went down. An 18-year-old Wilmington man had been in communication on Instagram with a subject regarding the purchase of a cell phone. A price was negotiated, and the 2 parties agreed to meet in the rear alley of the Midway Plaza shopping center. The victim, who was a rear seat passenger in a vehicle driven by a friend, arrived at the designated location to complete the transaction. Soon after arriving, 2 black male subjects approached the vehicle and made contact with the victim through his open window. These 2 males would be Divine Boyce, 18 at the time, and Kevin Bailey, 16 at the time. Upon making contact with the victim, one of the subjects, Diviner Boyce, displayed a silver and black handgun, pointed it at the victim, and demanded his money. The victim complied with the demand and turned over an undisclosed amount of money, at which time both subjects fled the area on foot. The victim was uninjured as a result of the incident. The 2 were eventually locked up. On December 1, 2019, Davin Boyce participated in a carjacking in downtown Wilmington. About 20 minutes later, police spotted the victim's car and tried to pull it over. Boyce and 3 juveniles were in the victim's car. They engaged in a high-speed car chase with police and ultimately crashed. Boyce was arrested after trying to run from police with a stolen loaded Taurus Model G2C 9mm handgun with an extended magazine and obliterated serial number in his hoodie pocket. At the sentencing hearing, the court found that Boyce had possessed or transferred the gun in connection with the carjacking, which enhanced his sentencing guidelines. He was prohibited from possessing a firearm by virtue of a prior felony conviction. However, although he was now in custody, law enforcement were not privy to his alleged involvement in a murder that took place less than 2 months prior. On October 28, 2019, officers responded to a report of a shooting about 8:05 p.m. Monday in the 2500 block of Thatcher Street, where they found a 19-year-old man who had been shot. The victim was identified by city police as Stephen Price. Price also went by the name Pop. Police closed 3 blocks of Thatcher Street for at least an hour to investigate. Neighbors said they did not hear any gunshots during the time of the shooting. Monday night's fatal shooting took place about a half-mile away from where 19-year-old Nathan Grabowski was shot. In that situation, an MG's member named Davin Walker was charged with the murder, as well as 2 others. He was ultimately sentenced to 61 years. We will talk about more crimes of the MGs in another video. Anyway, the killing of 19-year-old Price marked the city's 20th person fatally shot up to that point. So far, Davin Boyce, who is the alleged shooter, is awaiting trial, as his murder charges are pending, but has been sentenced to 10 years for the carjacking situation. Taryn Wally, 17, was a student at Frere Wilmington Charter School. He was a rising sophomore who played on the Dragons varsity basketball team, number 11. On August 10, 2020, 3 individuals were shot overnight in Wilmington in a pair of shootings. And one of those people would be 17-year-old Taryn Wally. He died as a result of his injuries. According to police, Wally and the 23-year-old man were shot in the 800 block of North Pine Street, in the city's east side, around 10:35 p.m. The older victim was transported to an area hospital in critical condition. Marcus Clark, 21, and Zimmer Heinzen, 20, both pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for the shooting death of 17-year-old Taryn Wally. Clark was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Heinzen was sentenced to 18 years. When the Delaware Department of Justice announced the indictment, 13 people were arrested and pleaded not guilty. At the time, they said Clark was the only one still on the loose. Obviously, he was soon caught. On behalf of the gang, 2020 September was a bloody month. Elijah Caulfield, 20, and Gregory Wing, 21, were both sentenced to life in prison, in addition to several more years for a series of murders and non-fatal shootings that primarily took place that September and were carried out in the name of the North Pack gang. Caulfield and Wing were first charged with murder in the death of 17-year-old Ollier Henry, aka Slim. On September 8, 2020, Wilmington police were alerted to a shooting in the 500 block of Pine Street around 7 p.m. They found Henry, who had been shot. He died at a local hospital. His death was mocked with a screenshot of paramedics trying to save Henry's life that included the caption, "He got stretched like a limo out there." Ollier Henry, or Slim, was the relative of Oliver Henry, also known as Budda. Budda had been arrested and charged for the January 2015 murder of 16-year-old Jordan Ellerb. Ellerb's murder ignited a rapidly accelerating feud between two rival gangs, Shoot to Kill and Only My Brothers. In the months and years following his death, a vicious cycle of gun violence and retaliation led to multiple shootings and murders, including the broad daylight murder of 15-year-old Brandon Wingo, in addition to dozens of arrests. We will get to that story and timeline in another video as well. Gregory Wing was a brazen member of the North Pack gang. He would be responsible for the next murder, the murder of Tuckman Davis, aka Tink. Davis was fatally shot in Wilmington's Hedgeville neighborhood on September 12, 2020, just before 7 p.m. The 19-year-old was shot in the 200 block of South Harrison Street and later died at the hospital. Court documents say accused members of North Pack attempted to kill Davis on the same night Ollier Henry was gunned down. Davis was the fourth person shot in Wilmington and one of 6 people shot statewide on Saturday. 3 people were shot in 3 separate shootings over a period of less than 3 hours earlier in the day, and 2 people were shot at night. It was a violent day. About 3-4 days later, a young man was spotted at a gas station, fueling up a reportedly stolen vehicle in Claymont, which led to a foot chase. According to authorities, officers spotted a Nissan Altima getting gas at the Wawa at 2621 Philadelphia Pike, and waited for the operator, ultimately identified as Gregory Wing, to return to the vehicle from inside the store. When they approached the vehicle, police said Wing fled on foot. Following his arrest after a brief chase, authorities said a 9mm handgun loaded with 10 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber fell out of Wing's waistband. Wing was charged with a felony's possession of a firearm during commission of a felony, carrying a concealed deadly weapon, receiving a stolen firearm, and receiving stolen property valued over $1,500, and additionally resisting arrest. He was committed to the Howard R. Young Correctional Institution in lieu of $30,500 secured bond. He was out the game. At trial, Caulfield was convicted of killing Sharif Hamilton. On September 23, 2020, Wilmington police were investigating 2 separate shootings that happened within minutes of each other the same night. One of them turned fatal. Police converged outside the Dash and gas station convenience store on the 1000 block of Delaware Avenue after 21-year-old Sharif Hamilton was shot around 11:45 p.m. He later died from his injuries. Shell casings were circled on the ground as investigators looked for other evidence. Around 11:50 p.m., a 35-year-old man was shot on the 800 block of West 7th Street. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition. No word on that situation though, but in the case of Hamilton, Sean Edwards, 20, was charged in the murder. Markle Richards, 21, was sentenced to 21 years in prison, tied to his guilty manslaughter plea for acting as the getaway driver in the Hamilton killing. Richards also pleaded guilty to multiple car thefts, non-fatal shootings and gang participation. Richards also did not address the court. The judge told Richards he was just as guilty as the people who shot Hamilton, but that he will have a shot at seeing the outside once again, and that he should see his arrest as a silver lining, because he was on course not to live to 25 years old. "You are going to have some time to think about what you are going to do," the judge said. And as we said earlier, Caulfield and Wing were sentenced to life in prison. The judge said he was struck by how utterly pointless the shootings were, singling out the irony of one piece of evidence from the trial, a picture taken from inside a local prison. The picture showed a bed and the words North Pack Rules 302 on it. Not only does North Pack not rule 302 from a cell, but the person that wrote it does not even rule their own life, the judge said. Caulfield declined to speak at the hearing and told the judge he had not thought about what he was going to do with his life in prison. The judge asked Wing the same question. "Make it out," Wing replied, before criticizing how the court handled his case. The judge told him that he will sometime realize that his bravado was pointless. "We will see what the Supreme Court has to say about that," Wing said, apparently referencing post-conviction appeals. On December 10, 2020, Dacavus Reed was fatally shot, and a 17-year-old boy was critically injured. It took place in the 100 block of Rose Lane in Newcastle County's Rosegate community. It happened around 2 in the afternoon. This shooting was the most violent day of a 5-day stretch that saw 16 people shot across the state, 7 of them fatally. On that single day, 8 people were shot within a 7-hour period, including 29-year-old Reed. During the month of January 2020, detectives from the Newcastle County Division of Police Drug Control Squad initiated an extensive investigation into him and his 41-year-old older brother Dawan Reed. During the investigation, it was learned that they were operating an illegal drug operation at their family residence on Rose Lane. It was also learned that at this residence, local drug dealers would gather and sell their products. But as we stated, Dacavus Reed would not make it to 2021, as he was killed the December prior. Jakari Robinson, 19, and Julia Smith Jr., 18, both pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for the killing of Dacavus Reed. The teen who Reed was walking with, who was also hit by the gunfire, ended up surviving. Robinson was 17 years old at the time of the shooting and was sentenced to 22 years in prison. Smith was 15 years old at the time of the shooting and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The two also pleaded guilty to gang participation and other charges. Now, we must mention another member of the North Pack gang, Israel Lecomte. He was charged with the separate killings of Quentin Dorsey and TikTok star Matima Miller. Both were fatally shot in early July. Orphaned at 13, Quentin Dorsey was raised by a grandmother. He stuck with his education and graduated high school. He persevered and 2 years ago started selling clothing under the popular brand name Bag Season. Around July 2, 2021, officers dispatched to the 900 block of Lombard Street on a Friday evening. They found Quentin Dorsey there, wounded from gunshots. He was taken to an area hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Dorsey was the 15th person killed that year by gunfire in Wilmington. Matima Miller, the dancing TikTok star better known as Swavy and Babyface.S, was 19 years old when he was killed in Delaware. The teen's passing was confirmed by authorities, who told reporters he was fatally gunned down in broad daylight Monday in the Southbridge neighborhood of Wilmington. Officers responded to an emergency call at about 10:42 a.m. on the 700 block of Albert Place, where Miller was shot. He was taken to the hospital, but died there. YouTube star Damori Kid Maury Mikula mourned the death of his homeboy Swavy in an emotional video. "Yeah, my friend Swavy man, he got shot," Mikula revealed, wiping tears from his eyes with his red t-shirt. "All he did was make videos, vids, going up, up. Miller had over 2.3 million followers on TikTok, where his username was Babyface.S, but fans knew him by his nickname, Swavy. The teen regularly posted dancing videos, paintball sessions, memes and comedy bits, accumulating nearly 100 million likes on the platform. He boasted another 401,000 followers on Instagram. Fans and friends took to social media to mourn the death of the young star. As news of Miller's death swept the web overnight, one fan posted to Twitter, "I ain't even know you, but I know you change people's lives by making them smile, and I'm sorry this happened to you." Blue and silver Mylar balloons were tethered to a metal pole that had a section of yellow crime tape tied to it. Not far from that, a longer strand of the crime tape snaked through the shrubs and lawns of the homes. A bouquet of blue and white flowers accompanied 22 lit candles placed outside a door of a house on Albert Place. More than a dozen white tea light candles were also on the doorway's landing. A person watching from a second-story window quickly dropped out of sight when reporters tried to get their attention. A man and woman walked by looking at the candles but didn't want to speak. They said they didn't know what had happened. "It's sad," said another woman who'd walked out of her home. "It's a loss for our community." Crazy enough though, Israel was said to be responsible for both murders, but while he was locked up on those charges, police uncovered he was tied to another situation. On July 15, 2021, police were called to Balfour Avenue around 9:40 p.m. after receiving 911 calls about the shooting. Neighbors told reporters they heard about 8 to 10 shots, though initially, they thought they were fireworks. When police arrived on the scene, they found one man shot inside a black Cadillac parked across from a weeping willow tree. Nearby, in a grassy area between the street and the sidewalk, they found another injured. Knollwood residents said 26-year-old Nathan Smith was in the car, and Jasser Brown was outside. Also on the scene, officers found a 19-year-old woman who was shot in her arm. An 18-year-old man who had also been shot during the incident was later dropped off at a local hospital. Though police and paramedics performed first aid on Smith and Brown, the two were pronounced dead at a local hospital. The women had been released, and the 18-year-old survived. Community members said they were scared, but not surprised, by the shooting. Knollwood has had a long history of drug issues, and residents say the violence there has gotten only worse. Although 2 people died, Nathan Smith and Jasser Brown, Nathan's death has since been solved. Israel Lecomte has been sentenced to 27 years for that killing. As far as the Quentin Dorsey and Swavey murder, he has not yet been sentenced. This was just an overview of the crimes of Northpac Greeley. Motives were not explained for each individual situation, but these were the perps and victims. But this about wraps it up for this one. And